Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Mind of Mandy. I do appreciate you coming. Tonight, I'm actually going to talk about my music and how I got to where I'm at and just my love of music. So hold in. I do have one announcement. I will be doing a second subset of podcasts focusing mainly on manifestation, and those will be available either through a paid subscription on the podcast sites that you guys are using or through my Patreon page. Um, just Google Mind of Mandy, Mandy Hyatt. You can find me. It's real easy. Anyway, let's get into my discussion of music. So, as I told you a little bit in the first podcast, I am a musician. How did I even get started in music? Well, that's kind of an interesting little story here. When I was very little, we're talking from the time I can remember, which honestly, I have a lot of memories from age 3 on. So my grandparents had this like little organ thing in their living room, and I would go tinker on it, go play on it. Then in second grade, at age 7, I was diagnosed with ADHD. I was put on Ritalin. It was too high of a dose for me. Also, warning, you might see kitten butt. I'm so sorry, guys. That would be Biscuits of the Clan Rye. Anyway, back to my music story. Bless you, buddy. Bless you. So my grandparents, they had this little organ, and I was diagnosed with ADHD. The Ritalin, they put me on too high of a dose, and it literally zonked me out. My mom made the decision to take me off of all medications for my ADHD. Now, mind you, this is in the very late 80s. There wasn't a lot of research like what we have now. And so she thought what she was doing was for the best. At least that's what I tell myself. So my grandpa on my mom's side, my grandpa Trone, who was an amazing human, read somewhere that music or sports actually help a lot with children who have ADHD. I'm a klutz. Like, no one can kick my ass better than me. So my grandpa's like, okay, well, music is the safer bet for my granddaughter. And so he enrolled me in piano lessons. And he wanted to see if it stuck before he went and spent a lot of money on a piano. At least a lot of money in that time. And it did. And I was flying through the books, and my piano teacher flat out told my grandpa, you're going to have to get her a real piano, which he did. He went out, and the piano stayed at my grandparents' house. So I went there and I practiced. I'd like to say every day, but it was not every day. But I practiced frequently. And I absolutely loved it. It helped me focus, and it changed enough, and it was novel enough that it kept me engaged. Anyone who struggles with ADHD knows that you have to stay engaged. It has to be exciting, novel, new, interesting, changing to keep us engaged. And that's what music did for me. Like, I loved it. At age 10, my grandpa's like, well, she's getting ready. This was 4th grade. Here soon, she probably is going to want to join band. Let's see if what she can do on her own. So my grandpa got me this flute, a little 1932 Artley flute. Now, as a flutist, I now can recognize that was a horrible flute. But I love that thing because it was something my grandpa got for me. And I taught myself how to play flute. I had no instructions other than the book my grandpa got me. So by the time that we started band in 6th grade, I was already playing more advanced than what everyone else was playing. Except for there were a few other people who were taking private lessons other than me, and those of us who did the private lessons, we were the ones who were more advanced. So in 6th grade, I played a lot with the junior high. Come 7th grade, I started playing, especially with the pep band, a lot with the pep band. To be honest, between flute and piano, by the time I was done at my freshman year of high school, I had my band letter in all 4 bars. That's just how much I did it with music. So flute at 10. In 8th grade, I got bored with the flute. There was nothing more that my band director could help me with to advance my flute. And what I wanted to play, the small school I was going to at the time did not have. I wanted to play the English horn. We already had like 3 or 4 oboes. We were a very small band. Let me reiterate, we had 3 or 4 oboes. That is a lot of oboe. A lot of squeaky ducks. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to do oboe. I want to do English horn. We don't have an English horn. What can I do? And I'm like, ooh, I love the Sorcerer's Apprentice. That instrument's a bassoon. I'm going to learn the bassoon. My band director at the time, he's like, I don't even know how to put one of these things together. If you can figure out how to put it together, I'll let you play it. Challenge accepted. What's the one thing you don't do to an ADHD person? Give us a challenge, because we are going to make sure it gets done. So I grabbed this case that was half my size at the time and go down to my history teacher. I went to my history teacher because she played the bassoon. I'm like, help? How do I put it together? What do I do with this thing? I don't understand it. So she showed me, and she showed me how to take care of it, what to do. And although she didn't provide lessons, anytime I had a question, she would gladly answer it. Even if I didn't turn in my history homework on time, she answered my bassoon questions. She was amazing. That was one of my favorite teachers of junior high. Anyway, so I played the bassoon in 8th, 9th. Well, basically through high school. I played when I was in marching band, flute and marching band, because you do not march with a bassoon. I mean, I'm sure there might be somebody crazy enough to try that, but I was not. So I did marching band with my flute. My flute was never in tune. No matter what we did, we could not get it in tune. I remember at one point, my band director at the larger school I graduated from my hometown, that's the place I call my hometown, said, just pretend like you're playing and don't actually play. That's how bad that flute was. Oh, that was great. But I also decided that I really love learning new instruments. So while I was doing all of this, my stepsister had a clarinet. My little brother decided to try tenor sax, and I taught myself how to play both of those. Was I ever really good at them? No. But at one point, I did play them. And then, probably 21, 22, the guy I was with at the time played bass guitar. And I'm like, oh, this would be fun. So I taught myself how to play bass guitar. He had a full-size bass, and it was hard, some of those stretches for me. So I got they called it a junior bass, but it was a little smaller. It was a lot easier for me to play. I did enjoy it. I just stopped playing. I don't know why. I just stopped playing. Actually, I do know why. That's another story. But I also sing. I have sung my whole life. I did choir. I even did choir as an adult when the community I live in now had a community choir, but COVID killed that. And through junior high and high school, I was always told I was an alto because I could read music. I was told I'm an alto because I read music. Could I sing alto? Yes. But my voice range, and thanks to my wonderful adult vocal teacher, Joanna Moses, I learned that I actually have a very large vocal range, from tenor 1 all the way up to soprano 1, and even getting into the coloratura aspect. When I was doing voice lessons, my goal was to sing the Queen of the Night aria from the Magic Flute. If you don't know what that is, go Google it, because that is some high shit. But that's what I wanted. I still would love to be able to sing that someday. I might get there. I might not. Because right now, I'm actually doing more focusing on the flute family. And I say flute family. So let me tell you about what I'm playing now. I actually have a wonderful Trevor James copper alloy flute. I have had many flutes. Most of them I got off eBay. But right now I have my Trevor James copper alloy flute, and has been the best flute for me. I play with a very dark, rich sound naturally. So I've always struggled with that light, bright, typical fluty sound. And I can do it with this flute. I love my flute. My piccolo is one I got off eBay. It is a Jupiter metal piccolo. She's been a workhorse. I love her. I also have an alto flute. It is a William Haynes Amadeus alto flute. It is a good flute. The only problem I have with it is it does get really heavy. If you don't know, alto flutes are a lot bigger than your traditional standard flute. I've been toying around with maybe seeing here in the near future what it would be to get the copper alloy Trevor James alto flute. And the reason why I say that, my C flute, my normal flute that is copper alloy, is so much lighter that I can actually comfortably play with my fibro. I can practice for 2-3 hours and my shoulders don't lock up. The only thing that happens is sometimes my hands start hurting pretty bad, and I have modifications on my flute that help me with that. I have a little pad for this finger, and I have a thing I put on my flute to kind of make the flute thicker for this hand. So that way this hand doesn't cramp up and this finger doesn't cramp up, because that's where I have the most issues. Eventually I want to get a bass flute, just because why stop at one? Any musician will tell you that it becomes an addiction, whether it's buying a new instrument in a different voice, such as the flute family. I know that there is multiple other flutes that I will probably end up with someday. We'll get there. But like, I know there's multiple trumpets, there's multiple clarinets. And if you're not buying the multiple instruments, you buy a shit ton of sheet music. Like, I had to go through a few months ago, and I went through all my sheet music, getting rid of stuff that either I knew I was never going to play, and some of it was piano books that I just wasn't going to use anymore. I had to be honest with myself, which was very hard. And violin. I tried violin for a while. Honestly, my struggle with violin, with the flute, this is, you go up in one direction, but when you're doing the violin, it's like opposite. So I was going towards the tuning pegs to go up. Violin players know that that is actually going down, not going up. And I would, if I didn't constantly think about that, I would seriously I'd be like, I had a wonderful violin teacher, and if he would have still been doing lessons after we moved back, I would have started up with the violin again. And I might again someday decide to do the violin. I don't know. We'll see. Don't know what the future holds. Now, with all this musical talent, why didn't Mandy go into music as a career? Well, in music, you basically have two types of careers. You have performance and you have education. Now, performance is not a steady income. It is, you get paid when you perform, and you have to constantly try to book those performances. And not that that's that hard when you think about it logically. Now, the actual application of it can be very difficult, but you have to go out and you have to sell yourself. Education is a steady income. First of all, it's a very low income, and yes, music teachers do make more than some other teachers. And I probably would have been happy with that salary. There's just one problem. Mandy doesn't deal with kids well. I would have had to either been a high school band director or taught at a college level. And to teach at a college level, you need like a master's or a doctorate in the instrument. And what instrument would have I chosen? Would I have chosen piano, which at age 16 I was playing Rhapsody in Blue by George Gershwin, the original manuscript? Or would have I chosen flute? Or would have I gone into voice? what would have I done? It would have been a decision that would have been very hard for me to make. And then the idea of practicing, all that practice really freaked me out. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do. So when I started college, I didn't know if I wanted to go into business or into music. Now, I had a group of people, particularly my family, who was pushing me to go into music. They were pushing me very hard to go into music. And then I had another group of person, that wanted me to do business. And at the time, I was 23 when I started college, seriously started college. And I wanted so much to be accepted and loved by this person that I decided I was going to go with business. I just didn't know what I wanted to do in business. And that's going to go into a whole new story about why Mandy got into accounting. But music helped me get through college. When I went to the 2-year college that I got 5 associate degrees from in 2.5 years, 5 separate degrees, 2.5 years. I was proud of myself for that one. But I was in the choir there, and I loved it. Like, the music helped me get through working full-time and taking 18 credit hours. I worked a full-time job, at least 40 hours a week, every week at a hotel. Luckily, I worked night audit, which meant, yes, I worked overnights, but that was when I got my homework done. As long as my work was done, my manager didn't care if I did my homework. As long as I wasn't sleeping. That was the thing. Don't care if your work's done and you're not asleep. She didn't care. I had a really good manager. And then I went and got my bachelor's degree, and there wasn't really any kind of music that non-traditional students could partake in. There wasn't a choir, there wasn't a band. That just wasn't an opportunity, but I still played the piano at home. At that point, I hadn't gotten back into flute. So I did play the piano, and that was my stress relief. And that kind of goes into how piano helped me through many not piano, but music in general helped me through many, many, many dark times. I'm going to insert a trigger warning. I am about to talk about suicide attempts, okay? So if you do not want to hear this, or it is too sensitive for you, you may want to turn off now, and I don't know how long I'm going to talk about this. So you can fast forward, turn off, I don't blame you. So at age 14, my best friend died of appendicitis. Who dies of appendicitis? Like, she was only 2 hours and 15 minutes older than me. Our birthday was on the same day. And she was one of my very best friends in life. The very last words I said to her, to this day, haunt me. And we're talking almost 30 years later. They still haunt me. We had gotten into an argument because I was hanging out with a couple of other girls. And my friend told me that they're just using me and that they were making fun of me behind my back. And I said, you're just a jealous little bitch. I don't care if you fucking die. Those were the words, the very last words I ever spoke to my best friend. A month and 2 days later, another girl that I was on the track team with, she was a few years older than me, and she was dating one of my cousins, died in a freak, horrific car accident. Okay. Well, my best friend died in March. This other schoolmate died in April. And in July of that year, a good friend of mine was murdered. I don't want to get into that. It was horrific. Between the second girl and my friend being murdered, I attempted suicide 3 separate times. 3 separate times. Out of all the things I'm good at, apparently offing myself is not one of them. And I'm glad. I'm glad now that I'm around. But at the time, I wasn't. It's the only thing that kept me alive at age 14, at ages 14 through 18, was music. There was one specific CD that a psychologist my grandparents took me to on my dad's side, my grandma and grandpa Hyatt. They had this church member, and she was a wonderful, wonderful woman. And she knew my musical abilities. She knew my love of music. She gave me Greg's Peer Gent? I don't know. I'm most likely mispronouncing this. Anyway, it's a series musical. Oh my God, Mandy, my brain went dumb. Anyway, that CD I still have that CD, and I was given that CD. I'm gonna age myself here a bit, and I'm okay with this. In 1996, I still have that CD. The very one she gave me. Because it got me through so many dark times in my life. When everyone else failed me and abandoned me and left me to my own vices, I had that CD. I had that music. And that music expressed everything I was feeling in a way that words could not. And I still listen to that CD. Now, I found it on streaming. I use Amazon Music for streaming. And I found that CD on Amazon Music. And I still listen to it every once in a while when I'm feeling a little down, or sometimes for enjoyment. If it wasn't for music having been in my life, I wouldn't be here to annoy you or talk to you or whatever you want to call this. So, a few years ago, my grandma Hyatt, who I was very close to, like the whole reason I moved to the area I moved to with my ex-husband was to take care of my grandparents. She got cancer. And I had bought this cheap little Amazon flute because sometimes the piano was too much for her. She couldn't handle hearing the piano because my grandparents had a piano. And I spent a year away from my husband, away from my life, away from everything to take care of my grandma. Because that's how much my grandparents meant to me. So I used that time to find my passion for the flute again. And yeah, it was a cheap $90 purple ass flute. And I started taking lessons with Joanna So, who is known on YouTube as Just Another Flutist. I love Joanna. She is a wonderful, wonderful teacher, an amazing human being. And she saw what I was going through. And I took lessons from her for many years. I had to stop while I was going through the divorce. It happens. But it was music, once again, that got me through a very dark time. Dealing with watching your grandma slowly demise from fucking cancer was horrific. I cannot put into terms how much that tore me up. If I hadn't had the music, I would not have been able to deal with the emotions of watching it. And then she died, and that was hard. And then, life happened. And, I still continued. I played in multiple groups. I did a bunch of stuff with music and with theater that kept me happy as I watched my marriage crumble. And if it wasn't for the music, once again, I don't know how I would have dealt with everything that was going on in that period, late 2019, early 2020. It was difficult. It was a very difficult time. Also a time of self-discovery where I found a lot of strength that I never knew I had. And how was I able to express this? Through music, through getting out the emotions that I felt at that point through music. And I still do it. Whether I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm melancholy, I'm going to blow the shit up kind of mood. It's always been music that helps me get that out, because I don't always know how to put how I feel into words, but I can put it into music. And if I'm not playing, you can tell what kind of mood I'm in by the music I'm playing. I mean, it's kind of, my fiance finds it amusing that when I'm in a really good mood, what am I listening to? Either R&B, I should be more specific, hip hop, or heavy metal. And I tend to go more towards heavy metal. Like, I really do enjoy my my heavy metal. Like, it is what it is. Music saved me. Music is always going to be a part of my life, no matter where I'm at in life, what I'm doing. I do things so I can music. Music is my life. It means everything to me. And I've heard it before where when I say music is everything to me, well, what about your fiance? Isn't he everything? I love him with all my heart. But music has gotten me through more things than is imaginable. Am I still going to marry him? Well, yeah. Am I going to be super picky about the music being played? Oh, hell yeah. But he understands this. He sees it. He supports my music. I'm lucky there. I haven't always had that kind of support. And he supports my music outside where people can see in public and at home. Because in the past I had it to where, oh, well, Mandy's doing this and with music and being all supportive on the outside, but at home I'd get a different story. So goes life, right? I mean, it happens. But yeah, that's my music story. For those of you who are going to be watching this, listening to this in a place where you can leave a comment, like YouTube, because I am going to post this on YouTube, let me know. What has music done for you? I love hearing these kind of stories. I want to know how music has helped you. And maybe someday I can convince one of my little music friends to hop on here and share with me and with all of you what music means to them. Because without music, I wouldn't be here. And that isn't an allegory. That isn't me being overly dramatic. That is me being 100% honest. Music has kept me alive when everything else in this world has failed me. And music will keep me alive long after I post this. I know it's the internet, it's going to last forever, but music will always be there for me. I love music. Well, I do appreciate everyone here listening to me ramble on for 30 minutes about music. And I hope you all have a wonderful week. As a little reminder to everyone who has gotten this far, I will be posting manifestation podcasts as a paid subscription option on here and on Patreon. I'm going to see if I can't do like an early access, because I record these before Saturday. This is not Saturday when it will be uploaded to you all. This is actually Thursday. But I'm going to start releasing these on Wednesday. So if you have the paid subscription, you can actually get to these on Wednesday night while everyone else has to wait till Saturday. And if you want to do the Patreon, you'll have that option as well, to have the video available to you on on Wednesday, as well as if you want to go to a different tier, getting the manifestation. But anyway, I hope everyone has a wonderful day, has a wonderful week, and I will see you all next week. Toodles!